Hello everybody, and welcome back to The Chaptered Master. Now it was requested by me to maybe do just a regular playthrough of this, no fancy one-off or anything exciting, and I thought why not, but rather than just playing as the Ultramarines or a random chapter, why don't we just play as my beloved personal homebrew chapter, the Storm Knight. So, I'm going to give you a bit of lore. It is M33, and currently not much is happening for the Storm Knights. The War of the Beast is over, which of course just afterwards was their founding, so the Storm Knights have been established for a few hundred years at this point, and not much is going on. The Orcs seem to have died down, the War of the Beast is over, there hasn't been a Black Crusade in a little while, so really the Storm Knights are slightly bored. They're sort of looking for action, looking for something to do. So they have deployed their chapter out into the stars to look for as many threats as they can. Now the ever-present loom of the Dark Angels and the hunt for the Fallen is still upon them. That's not correct. It should be apprenticeship. So the Storm Knights are carrying on as they do. So this is going to be a regular playthrough, intermitted with some of my Storm Knights facts, and we're going to go from there. Their current chapter master, Nukumu, is a renowned swordsman and warrior, and he is very impatient over the fact not much has happened for the chapter for a little while. So he is out to try and make a name for himself in the eyes of the other members of the Adeptus Astartes. He is hoping to try and sort of gain a bit more prestige and influence about the Imperium. So as you can see, there are a few Orc sectors around, which of course is going to please. Remnants from the War of the Beast that the Administratum just haven't really gotten around to getting rid of yet. But everything seems mostly quiet so far. So we shall begin. Right. Now, I have disabled the Heresy mod just because this is after the Heresy, so it doesn't make much sense for them to be running around in armor. The Mark 4 plate. Downside is you do lose the discounts on ships and vehicles if you disable the Heresy upgrade pack, but that's alright. I must admit, power weapons and bolters, Terminator armor. Fred, really? Captain Fred? How did he... his full name is Captain Frederick. And since it is a feudal world, he was Captain Frederick, and he was the son of a noble. Alright, so we've got honor guard, we've got power weapons and bolters. Why is the... the plasma pistol means his melee damage is attack is slightly down. I don't know, we might change that later on. The Librarian Corps, well, still looking pretty good. I'm liking the classical Storm Knight armor packages. Got Squires, Interrogator Chaplains, Rhinos and Tanks, looking good. Alright, so I'm going to... looks like a lot of the armor is in the chapter is pretty full. Now what I'm thinking is the Storm Knights are going to go out and crusade. They're going to kill Orcs and try and earn some honor for themselves, because they're still a little bit... they're coming into their own as Astartes. As I said, they were formed after the War of the Beast in M32, and then they spent most of the original time just clearing out the remaining Orcs, building themselves up again. But now it's a little bit of relative peacetime in the Imperium, so the Storm Knights are looking to re-establish their prowess. Now I am going to, as I said, we have a full chapter. Now I am going to select and have 7th Company are going to remain on the eternal vigil over the planet. So I'm going to load up some of the land raiders and armor. Not all of it, but just some of it. Some of the land raiders and armor for the rest of the chapter to take with them. I think it's one of those things of, I know what it is. I've just come up in my head. I like creating my own lore, as you are aware. So I've just come up with it. Now, it is tradition, unless it's a severe emergency. For example, when in M42, when the Great Rift happened, the Storm Knights did this. But there always should be one company of Storm Knights upon the homeworld, in addition to the scouts, just for personal safety. And whenever the chapter is together, they will have honor duels to decide who, what company should remain. And it's considered a necessary service, but a bit of a dishonor to be away from the action and forced to remain on the homeworld. So in this case, Captain Angarnus lost out to Captain Augustus for the honor of remaining deployed on the homeworld. So they are going to remain on the homeworld as its defenders, and they shall assist in training any new scouts that come to pass. So, now what do we reckon? Well, I reckon the chapter master will want to make headway for the orcs as soon as possible. So we shall begin. Right. Now, 7th company have been left upon their world, Telenor, and they shall carry on. Artifact. Right, the chapter master and some honor guard are going to move down there and request the artifact. They're going to take it. They're back on board. That's good. Right, and off they go to deal with any greenskins they encounter. Now, as I said, the Storm Knights are established at killing greenskins from their time previously during the War of the Beast, so they're not shabby in terms of that. Now again, Storm Knights follow basically they follow the Codex Astartes in terms of guidelines, with the Dark Angel's flare upon them. Of course, bolters remain the most prized thing about the Storm Knights. The Storm Knights tend to very much reveal swords and bolters as their primary weapons. So all members of the chapter must be adept in the art of using bolt weapons. It's something that goes even up to the chapter master of firing competitions. For example, they have honor duels between each other, but there's also firing duels. So there's either accuracy competitions or swordsmanship competitions. Now, the interrogator chaplain, is running a little low. There's, of course, one interrogator chaplain with every member of the chapter, but considering the Storm Knights still have that, it hasn't manifested into the contempt it does by the time of M42, but they still are reluctant to have to do the Dark Angel's bidding, so hence why their Reclusium is a little bit less staffed than it is for other chapters. They're still not as keen on having to do the Dark Angel's bidding as they would like. Right. Mark 6 plate. Classic Mark 7. As I said, I painted up a squad of Storm Knights, although I used a lighter grey. And if I was ever to do that again, because as I said, I didn't like the squad of Storm Knights I painted up. I keep them around anyway, but definitely not my best work. I would do them in this style. I would do it as more black grey, the yellow shoulder pads and the red trim. I did it in a very light grey, like almost that bolter colour grey. And it didn't quite turn out because white background, yeah, it was a bit of a mess. But I'd like to paint up some more Storm Knights one day. Right. Missile launchers, everything's going well there. Alright. Did I end turn? Can we do any more actions? I did end turn. Jeez, I was so rambling on about my lore, I forgot to do that. Good. Now, the Storm Knights are just going to follow a... They want, as I said, raiding is good, but they want to flaunt their stuff in front of Imperial authorities, so a full display of the chapter with armor support just looks more impressive, and hopefully we'll get them more acclaim upon the battlefield than anything else. I guess Imperium. I should actually... Oh yeah, we'll need to keep that at some point. Oh! Should have moderate recruitment. The chapter, as I said, it's on basically peacetime setting, and the chapter master's looking, Nakumis is looking to change that, so we're going to have everything on standard. Now, I want some flamers. I want melter guns. Where's melter guns? Also, that's a weird point. I requested that the honor guard of the chapter master be armed with storm shields as well as power swords, because that's how I feel they should be armed. They're classic knights. They follow the classic knight template of sword and shield. So they run with power swords and storm shields as the chapter master's bodyguards. But the game said no, so we're going to actually address that. Here's a little bit of money, it's 200, but that's alright. Could have done a boarding shield as well, I suppose. No, those are only good for two-handed range weapons. Great for if you're making a boarding squad, which we should actually. We should make a couple of boarding squads for the chapter. I think this is a period for growth and experimentation for the Storm Knights. As I said, it's peacetime. They're trying to regain some of their prestige in the eyes of the other Astartes chapters, so they're looking to try things out. So I think boarding squads is a good idea. Right. Now I will do all this micromanagement, and I shall re-equip all of these weapons to everyone off screen, just because that can be tedious for the viewer, although there's some of you that really like that, but I just find it a little tedious, so I will do that off screen. I knew there would be orc wars around here somewhere. Now please tell me that they're not up here. No. Nakumu has written a formal complaint many times to the Imperial authorities about the name of the system of Sextanus, because apparently it was gifted to that sector by an Imperial guardsman as a joke upon liberation of the system by orcs, and unfortunately the name actually ended up persisting. Now, while above such things as the Adeptus Astartes naturally are, the Storm Knights who are patrolling the sector are still quite annoyed. Now, this is before the age of apostasy and everything else, so the fact that there are ecclesiarchy around is a bit odd for the Storm Knights and everyone, because worship of the God Emperor is getting to be more commonplace, but it's still, a lot of people still remember the secular Imperium even now, so they're kind of, the Storm Knights are sort of, they're willing to accept the Emperor worshippers, but they're not going to be buddy-buddy with them, as we would say. Right. Re-equip chain swords with boarding shields. Power sword, storm shield. Boarding shield. Bolters and boarding shields. Set borders. Right, set border. Equip chain swords for boarding shields. Right, set border. Equip for boarding shields. Right, Storm Knights are going to adopt this boarding shield idea and see what they can come up with in terms of that. And they're also going to have a couple of... they think they should... Yeah, one squad from each company should be ready as boarders. Oh, not you guys, because you're on the homeworld. The chapter master comes back and goes, you need to be prepared for boarding actions. And they're like, what? B for boarding shield. Yeah, I think every company should at least have one squad of boarders. Part of the chapter's new aggressive ideology. Re-equip. Chainsword with boarding shield. And second company should have this as well. Chainsaw with boarding shields. And set borders. Right. We shall do our first save of the day. Well, I'm still afraid that it will spawn 500,000 battleships upon me. It's just, this game does it. You know it does. So we're just going to carry on with that. Now, as I was saying, War of the Beast was a while ago now, but everything's quieting down. Right. The chapter's first void action. Right. The chapter wants to increase their prestige. Now, as I said, the Storm Knights are traditionally close-range fire support fighting sort of thing. They're not very much one for void combat. They're not, say, masters at it like the Imperial Fists or some others, but they're still adept at it, as they can be. Right. Bombard. Ooh. The Storm Knights would claim that as a necessary sacrifice, because if the Orcs are able to produce warships on such a world at such a scale, then attacking without a preliminary bombardment is foolish. Also, Nakumu is looking to get himself a bunch of honor, and really saving civilians is not as honorable as defeating a handful of Orcs is honorable. As I said, Dark Angel's successors. Ends justify the means, sort of thing. Right, and now this is where I'm going to grant them their storm shields. I also don't know why you've got Mark 7 plate. I should really upgrade you to have like fancy Mark plate, but that's alright. So you and the chapter master, along with first company, they're going to single-handedly land upon the planet and attack. The chapter master, he's trying to get himself some honor and glory, so I think it's kind of what would be his style. Plus 8 armor. 8 armor class. And select all. You can load up on the strike cruiser. Now, another interesting thing. Armor. When was Mark 8 armor invented? I would give them Mark 8, but I don't know if that's lore accurate or not. Also, Mark 4 Maximus. I do miss the Heresy mod in the sense of being able to buy Mark 4, but it's just, for the time period, it makes more sense to do it this way. Let's actually look it up. Thanks to the power of phones. Mark 8 power armor. Yes, no, I don't want... Jump to the Space Marine video game entry for Mark 8. Let it be, because traditionally the Storm Knight's gene seed is incredibly stable, and any gene seed things are usually relatively minor. Now these are not Tyranids. Tyranids don't exist yet, so what do we reckon we should call them? Megarachnoids? You know what, I'm going to say that these are a race of hyper-intelligent mecharachnoids. that are rampaging around the sector. They're not a huge threat in of themselves, but they have been, classified as a carte blanche life form, so the Storm Knights are able to cut them down at will. But usually Imperial Guardsmen are able to hold them off themselves. It's just when they come in lots of numbers that it tends to be a issue for the chapter. Now, I want to know when Mark 8 power armor came out. I know about Mark 5 heresy armor and Mark 6 and all that. Mark 5. I do love the look of Mark 5 with the modified Terminator helmet. Right, Mark 8 air and armor. Limited numbers in the battlefield of 41st millennium. So yeah, Mark 8 was not around till 41. So I think we shall have to keep the Honor Guard veterans in their Mark 6 plate. Oh no, they're in Mark 7. Why shouldn't they should be in Mark 6 at least? If I can't give them like Mark 4 or something for them, then at least I should be allowed to give the Honor Guard. Yeah, Mark 8 doesn't exist yet. So I'm going to give them suits of Mark 6. Because that is what the Honor Guard should just be armed with. Right, 18 plus 8 plus 10% ranged, even though they have no ranged attack and they are entirely sword and board. But that's alright. I've used the assault actions. Right. Attack. Nicely done. And attack just with the Chapter Master in First Company, because the Chapter Master is still looking for his fair share of honor. Now, I know what you're thinking. What do the other chapter officers think of it? Chief Librarian thinks about a bit of restraint. He thinks it is good to keep himself, for the Chapter Master's idea to keep themselves, combat experience and keep them from being complacent, but he's worried that the Chapter Master is doing it for his personal glory and honor rather than the honor of the chapter, and he sort of gets the impression that the Chapter Master thinks that the honor of the chapter and his honor are the same thing, so he's kind of urging caution upon that one. But for now, the Storm Knights continue on as they should. Now, overview of the sector. Minor greenskin attack in the south. The Storm Knights shall deal with it because they are, from their founding, are well aware of what happens if orcs are left out of control. Now, as I've said many times before, Storm Knight standard policy is they do raids. They'll do a orbital strike, shock and awe, bolter and blade, get in and chop up close, and then they'll usually follow that up with ground attacks once the tactic of shock has worn off. So for example, in this case, they will start by raiding them, drop pod assault right into the heart of the enemy, sword and board, and then they shall move from, and then they follow up with a regular ground attack. As you can see, the Chapter Master leads it himself. Some orcs still live. The Chapter Master is very annoyed by such a thing. So, he calls up the armor. All of the tanks they have on hand to blast them down. Right, and off they go. The Fallen. The Chapter Master does not like having to hunt for the Fallen, but he does. Now, of course, you can't leave it to the scouts or anything. This is a first or second company private matter. So, one squad from second company. One squad from first company shall load up into the Lord of Sacred, backed up by interrogator chaplain. And then we will also transfer you. Why can I not? Oh, he's an aspirant. Okay, well, no, we don't want the aspirant. We want, because that's kind of a, hey, aspirant, you're going to go immediately hunt for the fallen. That's kind of a, we do have a second interrogator chaplain. Interrogator chaplain Alexo can load up and lead the Little Lord of the Sacred's quest. Alright, so everyone, Lord of the Sacred goes up that way. Everyone else will head back to Telenor. They're going to use it as a resupply point on their way across as they go. I'm also going to unload them now. Yes, I think the 7th Company captain is going to re-challenge. He's going to challenge the captain of the 9th Company in an attempt to get a bit of prestige and position back. And what's the captain of the 9th Company going to do? Yeah. So, what happens here is the captain of the 9th Company, or 7th Company, challenges the captain of the 9th Company. 9th Company captain loses, so unfortunately they are now back on duty, while the 7th Company captain is back. That's actually interesting. The entire chapter was deployed in one of the company was deployed in one of the escorts. That's interesting. I'm glad that's not a thing anymore. Weird. Alright. Who else is in the immaterial? Weird question. Yeah, 7th and 8th Company are together, and 9th Company, having lost the honor duel, are now back on the homeworld. They're slightly alleviated because they have recently seen combat, but they're still pissed off because their captain lost in a duel to the 7th Company captain, who's trying to regain a bit more of his own personal honor. Oh, I forgot. I was going to have the chapter identify those relics. However, the chapter master is actually currently not in the mood. He's like, relics? Well, that won't bring us honor. Only battle will bring us honor. Charge into combat. So, we must fall in on Perrin 1. And you can have a look on Perrin 1. Offensive attack. How the Storm Knights roll. There is an enemy fallen. Good. Alright, it wasn't a wasted trip. And they actually have a prisoner. So that is good. They shall make their way back to the homeworld to deposit them off. While the Storm Knights carry on their little crusade. Ancient ruins. As I said, I like to feel that the Storm Knight Nakumu is not in the mood to be hunting for ruins or anything like that. However, considering the necessity of the chapter, the Librarian Corps have managed to convince him to send down 10th Company. Call it a quick training exercise. And there you go. They've discovered some outdated relics and artifacts, which has given the chapter master some mild pleasure. Right. Now the Storm Knights are going to strike like a fury. One battleship. Aha! the Eldari. Now, Storm Knights are true Adeptus Astartes warriors. They're not going to refuse help from the Xenos, but if you think that the Storm Knights are going to trust these mysterious Xenos, then think again. I like to think that they've engaged the Orc battleship and then suddenly the Eldari have just risen out of nowhere to take them down. It's an interesting development that the Storm Knights have encountered. They're not quite sure how to deal with this. As I said, the Chapter Master is eager for combat, but he's not quite sure how to deal with these things. The Chief Librarian is trying to urge him to remain cautious and to not attack the Eldar. And reluctantly, Nakumu agrees because he's more interested in killing the Orcs than he is fighting the Eldar who happen to be around. That and Nakumu kind of thinks the Eldar are beyond contempt. An Orc is a foe he can respect. But Eldar, wily little phantoms, they don't know nothing of honor. Chief Librarian seems to, at this current stage where majority of the chapter are obsessed with obtaining honor and glory, seems to be one trying to necessitate restraint upon the chapter. But overall, they're doing well. As I said, they've managed to claim a fallen. Interesting that the Eldar are still there. As I said, Nakumu's trying to figure out what the priority is. Oh yes. Just rearranging a few things. Right. Raid. Yeah, raid's perfectly fine. Alright. Good, everyone else is perfectly fine. Jolly good. Alright. Now, they fought off these Orcs, but they seem to have returned. So they think they need to take down the Orcs upon the feudal world to try and cut off reinforcements coming in. So that is what the Chapter Master proposes to do. Ooh. The Chief Librarian is concerned about this increased volatility amongst his librarians and resolves to find a way to ease their minds. He wonders if it's perhaps the presence of the Eldarin system causing a disruption on their psychic abilities, or if it is in fact just an effect from fighting the greenskins so much. He does note that there are a few librarians lacking psychic hoods, and does pose a formal request to be able to purchase more, of which the Chapter Master agrees, if it'll get the Chief Librarian, I'm not saying that name, that's retarded, off his back. Psychic hood. There. Also, do we have any power weapons in stock to you can have force axes as well as force swords and things, so I'm just going to use those. It's not actually a Storm Knight weapon, but in terms of the game, I do love the power axe. It does more damage, and it's just it does more damage, and it's cheaper than the power sword. It just doesn't make sense. But still, re-equip chainsword with bolt pistols. Yeah, that'll do. Right. Right, Storm Knights are going to charge back into victory. Chief Librarian is concerned. Who is Ralph? The one guy he doesn't get a psychic hood for. He now makes another personal requisition order to the chapter master, who just says, buy it and shut up. I want to kill more orcs. Ralph, who is the newest member of the Librarian Corps, is going to be granted his request for... Really? I thought I had a power sword. Hold on. Fine. Let's give him a psychic hood then, whatever. There. His request for a psychic hood has been granted. Now, the chapter master's like, get off my back for Pete's sake. I'm trying to earn more honor. Right. Actually, no, the chapter master's being greedy again. And he's just summoning first and 10th company with him. He wants more honor. Ah, the chief librarian. Again, he's trying to make an example by leading from the front, but in reality he's just being a bit of a showboat. Hopefully this won't come back to bite Nakumu in the end. Although his honor guard are good, keeping him alive with sword and shield. Alright. First and second company. The addition of second company again was a request from the chief librarian, who suggested giving more of the companies a chance to serve in combat. Right, the orcs are cleansed from the sector. And that is where I'm going to leave it for today. So, it's M33. The Storm Knights are looking to grant themselves glory and honor upon the battlefield. So, they are striving to destroy as many enemies of mankind as possible and grant themselves as much glory on the battlefield. Hopefully it will work out for them. Well, considering the chapter around M42, it obviously does in a way, but how many hurdles are in the way between them and honor and glory like they seek? I guess we shall find out another time.